Okay, next. Turn to the right just a little bit. Look at the camera. Smile.
I can't remember the last time I genuinely smiled. And I don't mean smiling at someone when you pass them on the street, or the corners of your mouth curling upwards when you greet someone. I mean smiling. Looking back on old videos, I recognize true unmasked grins so uncontrollable and easy on my little face. The same experience that would have made me giggle as a child would simply make my eyes flutter now. I'm not unhappy. I'm simply numb. My story isn't out of the ordinary. It isn't tragic. It isn't world-changing. It is simply a life. But that's why it's so important. Because it is so ordinary. Because I'm not alone in this struggle. I was always a happy kid. I radiated sunshine and I could always pick myself up from a tough day. Up until 6th grade, I believed that the biggest problems in life were my mean elementary school classmates, but I was not prepared for genuine struggles like body dysmorphia or depression.
What is mental illness is, again, it's not quite so simple. I think that we are all human, which includes strengths and weaknesses, good things and bad things. We can categorize them, and maybe my weaknesses fall within a diagnostic manual, maybe they don't. But it doesn't mean I don't have a weakness and strengths. And ultimately, as we grow in life and we understand our strengths and our weaknesses, or strengths that shine less bright, and we learn to maximize both of those, is when we can be truly brilliant and offer something amazing.
How do we know when your mental health has been affected? And I think the brain controls your feelings, your emotions, your thinking, and your behavior. And when those things aren't working right, when you're functioning in those areas are causing you distress, that's a problem with mental health.
So something that might be perceived as a weakness, like stuttering, in James Earl Jones, he was a horrible stutterer, hated going to school because the kids made so much fun of him. But then because he worked on this amazing voice, he becomes the voice of Darth Vader and the Lion King with his great stentorian voice. This will all be yours. But he was motivated because of his stutter to really work on this voice to not stutter. So was that a weakness or was that a strength?
Sixth grade was a slap in the face. The teenage population found out that we are no longer valued anymore because we are no longer beautiful. We are diminished to objects when our value is dropped due to our uniqueness. I became aware of my body and the ability to compare it to others, a practice that is taught to kids as they grow up. I used to think my lips were pretty. I liked that they were naturally a dark red, and I truly believed that they were one of my best features. One day, I told my older sister that I liked my lips, and she laughed and explained to me, "You are not beautiful because you are not the beauty standard." I found out that it was considered attractive to have big lips, and I do not. For the next couple of years, I looked into lip fillers as a hobby. I don't think my lips are pretty anymore.
I do think teens are more affected by the comments of others directly.
For the longest time, I was extremely underweight. A constant experience for me was others asking if I was anorexic or simply assuming that I was, so I was told to eat a sandwich. In middle school, body shape became a thing and I was called chicken legs, and when the word flat was mentioned, the automatic response was Cara Davidson. My previously unharmed confidence became a distant friend that only visited when I didn't look in the mirror. So I began constantly overeating in hopes to put some meat on my bones. I experienced a problem that is perpendicular to the want to be skinny desire that is often seen in the media. I never felt guilty about eating tubs of ice cream and cake and pizza all in one sitting because it would get me to my goal, right? Right? With this warped body image, I developed a weak mental health and consistently felt depressed. The interlacings and relationship of the two deadly sins of the mind, body image and mental health, turned out to be a ripple effect. ever impacting the other, each of them making the other worse, until I was at a point where a bloated stomach equaled not being able to get out of bed. Once I started gaining weight, I found it really hard to control what I ate, and then I began to think I was overweight. I would go from thinking I was sickly thin one day to genuinely believing that I was obese the next. I became obsessed with taking photos of my body to see if I'd gotten better as time went on. Generally, the public views eating disorders as tendencies someone develops to make themselves skinnier, when in actuality, eating disorders are any of a range of psychological disorders characterized by abnormal or disturbed eating. Between 20% and 30% of adolescents report symptoms of depression. While depression was once considered an adult affliction, the mean age of onset today is 15. Almost 9% of high school students have attempted suicide in the past year. And then the pandemic hit. For a while, I felt myself on top of the world, free of seeing others to compare myself to. For the first time in a while, I felt beautiful. But after all good things must come to an end. As quarantine lengthened, the entire Generation Z began spending way too much time on social media. We all began seeing ideal body types and features that are unattainable yet are so normalized. We started comparing ourselves to the products of Photoshop and makeup, and we started taking hits at our own self-worth because we felt we didn't fit a dense mold. While the early stages of quarantine where I didn't compare myself to others was nice, while it lasted, I had gotten too comfortable in this unrealistic painting of reality where others are simply not there for you to compare yourself to. Now that things are back to normal, the blow is 1,000,000 times harder.
Before the pandemic, teenage mental health was getting worse. I think what the pandemic has done is accelerated that. We're seeing more young people show up in the emergency room with mental health issues. We're seeing an increase in eating disorders and self-image concerns.
Escapism. The tendency to seek distraction and relief from unpleasant realities, especially by seeking entertainment or engaging in fantasy. My goal has become less of be happy and more of stop feeling the pain. Some of the best moments I have are playing games with my friends online. While it seems pathetic and silly, these moments are the ones where I can ignore the pain for the longest. I can escape into a world that is not this one, a world where happiness is my goal. I was talking to my dad the other day about this short film, and he got confused when I told him that it was about mental health and depression. He looked at me and said, "How can you possibly do a film about depression? You're such a happy girl." I looked down and replied, "I'm a good actor." The hard part about depression is that it does not label itself to the world, so it's very hard to realize that someone is struggling with it. Not only is it difficult to see in others, but it's difficult to see in ourselves. The culture that Gen Z grew up in heavily relies on invalidating its members. We are told that depression has to look a certain way. Social media and its comparisons create a sort of depression Olympics. Your struggles do not exist because mine are harder.
Okay, good. Next.
There is a point in the sadness where we do not want to get better. Sadness becomes comfortable. Change becomes a leap into darkness. It's not that we enjoy being sad, but after all this time, it has become a part of us. There will always be parts of us that we don't fully love, and maybe sadness is just one of those things. Or maybe it's because we don't want to grow up. We have to get to a point where we want to be happy. I'm still working on it. I'm sure we all are. None of us want to be unhappy. None of us want to be uncomfortable. Change is just a phenomenon that is very hard to accept. In a world where everyone is struggling, it's very hard to feel seen. It's hard to understand that you are struggling. When we do not feel seen, we cannot see ourselves. I see you. For you. Nothing prepared me for what the privilege of being yours would do. Oh my, the last one? That is so annoying. Ugh.
Okay, say bye-bye, Cara.